Boys and girls, we're starting part 2 of our Read Aloud encounter. You should have your journal in front of you and you should have it dated 9/1/2020 and with the title of our book Encounter underlined, just like in the picture. I have also written VCE, which are the words that we're looking for throughout our reading, and they are words that end in a silent E. You have some examples that I've written down, and our focus is also context clues. We talked about a couple yesterday, pale and custom. You may see those same words again throughout the text, and we're going to find a couple of new ones. Remember to write the new words on your journal, in your journal, and that you want to define them. Find the meaning. Remember, you want to use the words around the word you don't know or group of words to find the meaning of that unknown word. You're going to write it in complete sentences, and I've given you an example of a sentence starter. You can also continue to write down some predictions or questions that come to mind, or mental images, inferences, anything that you find throughout the text. Let's get started. I ran back under the trees, back to the place where my zemi stood. I fed it little pieces of cassava and fish and yam from the feast. Then I prayed, "Let the pale strangers from the sky go away from us." My Zemis stared back at me with unblinking wood eyes. I gave it the smooth balls a stranger had dropped in my hand. Take these eyes and see into the hearts of the strangers from the sky. If it must be, let something happen to me to show our people what they should know. My Zemis was silent. It spoke only in dreams. Indeed, it had spoken to me already. Find some VCE words on this page, as well as write the first context clue word that we're going to discuss, or you're going to write in your journal, which is zemis or zemis. And in a complete sentence, write down what you think that word means. Also, write down the word unblinking and tell us what you think that word means in a complete sentence. When I returned to the feast, one of the strangers let me touch his sharp silver stick. To show I was not afraid, I grasped it firmly as one would a spear. It bit my palm so hard the blood cried out, but still no one understood, no one heard. They did not hear because they did not want to listen. They desired all that the strangers had brought, the sharp silver spear, round pools to hold in the hand that gave a man back his face, darts that sprang from sticks with a sound like thunder that could kill a parrot many paces away. We were given none of these, only singing shells and tiny balls on strings. We were patted upon the head like a child pats a yellow dog. We were smiled at with many white teeth, a serpent's smile. The next day, the strangers returned to their great canoes. They took 5 of our young men and many parrots with them. They took me. I knew then it was a sign for my zemis, a sign for my people. So I was brave and did not cry out, but I was afraid. Readers, I want you to take a look at the way the words zemis and was is written in the story. That's called italics. And when you read a story to yourself in your mind, when you read it or out loud, it's letting you know that it needs to be read in a different way, that a little bit more emotion or feeling should be used when reading that story. So instead of that last sentence saying, "but I was afraid," you need to read it by saying, because it's in italics, it should say, "but I was afraid." So it's your stressing emotion. You're letting them know that the feeling is involved. That night, while my people slept on shore, the great sailed canoes left our bay, going farther and farther than even our strongest men could go. Soon the beach and trees and everything I knew slipped away until my world was only a thin, dark line stretched between sky and sea. What else was there to do? In the early morning, another land lay close enough to see. Silently, I let myself over the side of the great canoe. I fell down and down and down into the cold water. Then I swam to that strange shore. Think about as he says, I fell down and down and down into the cold water. Look at the illustration. What mental images come to mind as you read and hear that the boy is falling in cold water and deep into the unknown? What mental images come to mind, or maybe what questions come to mind as you hear the story? Don't forget to write them down. Many days I walked following the sun. Many nights I swam, and many times the sky was full with the moon and stars. All along the way, I told the people of how I sailed in the great canoes. I told of the pale strangers from the sky. I said our blood would cry out in the sand. I spoke of my dream of the white teeth. But even those who saw the great canoes did not listen, for I was a child. So it was we lost our lands to the strangers from the sky. We gave our souls to their gods. We took their speech into our mouths, forgetting our own. Our sons and daughters became their sons and daughters, no longer true humans, no longer ours. That is why I, an old man now, dream no more dreams. That is why I sit here wrapped in a stranger's cloak, counting the stranger's bells on a string, telling my story. May it be a warning to all the children and all the people in every land. As you hear the story, take a look at the illustration of now the man who used to be a boy as he was telling the story. Think about how his character may have changed from beginning to the end. You're going to talk about that later this week, how the plot of the story rises and falls. And for me personally, this reminds me of a story that you all may have read when you guys were little from Shel Silverstein called The Giving Tree. And it was just about a little boy who was very hopeful and happy, and he loved his tree. And then at the end, it was the tree that just gave and gave and gave. And at the end, it was just him and the tree. The illustration just gave me, Mrs. Cruz, that mental image. So readers do all of these things all the time, all throughout our lives. We ask questions, we jot down things that we don't know. That's why we do stop and jots, and we create little movies and mental images in our mind that takes us back to connections we had when we were younger or different parts in our lives. So we hope that you enjoyed the story. You're going to be using it throughout the week so that you can become better readers all the time.